concept of man is complex and mysterious, and everyone has a different view of it, so it is difficult to explain it in a few words. We will discuss 4 aspects of explaining the concept of man, from different timelines, countries, and cultures: theology, man and nature, Chinese Confucianism and psychology. What is a human being? Humanity is the general term for human beings. Man can be defined on various levels: biological, spiritual, and cultural, or a combination of these. Biologically, man is referred to as a higher animal. Spiritually, man is described as being capable of using various concepts of the soul, which in religion are considered to be associated with divine power or spiritual immortality. Next, we will look at the concept of man from a theological perspective. Theological anthropology is a theory of theology and the social life of man. Modern anthropology emphasizes the idea that man is the only one who is beyond this and is free, thus distinguishing him from the animals and forming a theology that sees man as superior to nature. In Europe, theology is mostly used to refer to Christian theology, but in addition to Christian theology there are also theological systems such as Islamic and Jewish theology. Medieval European theology held that God created man. In God's view, only a man and a woman together could be a complete human being, a happy human being. From a theological point of view, man is the measure of all things, and man himself is in any degree beyond himself. One could say that man is truly superhuman. Christian theology holds that man can never die, because the image of God in him is immortal, and that even if the body dies, the soul and the form of God will be preserved forever. But later on people began to move away from superstitious theology and to believe in the more convincing science of man and nature.
The Stanford Encyclopedia of Philosophy, in its entry on natural theology and natural religion, mentions that around 1600 to 1800 a near-atheistic natural theology emerged in Europe, which was not limited to an empirical inquiry into nature, but also did not combine with pantheistic results. The naturalistic philosophers of ancient Greece before the 6th century AD studied the origin and composition of everything, the origin of the universe and the composition of the world, but at the same time inevitably dealt with the question of man. Their understanding of man went beyond the mythological stage to the intuitive and material perspective of nature. Thales believed that water was the origin of everything, that all life originated from water, and that all life would eventually become water. Anaximenes assumed that air was the determining element or origin of all things. Heraclitus believed that the origin of the world was fire. Democritus explored the problem of the structure of matter and proposed the idea of atomism. He believed that the origin of everything was the atom and the void. From those, we can see that the ancient Greek naturalist philosophers believed that human nature can be attributed to some natural material elements, such as air, fire, and atoms. The German philosopher Hegel closely combined man and nature together, showing a harmonious relationship between nature and man, in which man generates to nature and nature generates to man. For Hegel, all real beings can only belong to nature, and nature is everything that exists in reality.
Feuerbach proposed that the new philosophy treats man, together with nature as the basis of man, as the sole, universal, and supreme object of philosophy. Man is the highest creature in nature, so the basis of man is nature, and a part of nature is man. The concept of man and nature are closely related.
After talking about man and nature, the next will be to further elaborate from the perspective of Chinese Confucianism. Preaching period from 221 BC attached great importance to human beings. How did the ancient Chinese position people in the world? To discuss this question, we can collect relevant information in 2 opposite directions. One is to look directly for affirmative statements of what man is. The other is to pay attention to negative statements of what is not man. The most common way to define human, both in China and abroad, is to compare human beings with animals in order to emphasize the nature of human beings. Mencius clearly stated that a fatherless man without a ruler is a beast. At the same time, Mencius thought that if one is well-fed and warmly clothed alone, and if one lives in ease without teaching, one is close to being a beast. The specific content of teaching is the system of human ethics taught by the deity. There is kinship between father and son, righteousness between ruler and subject, distinction between husband and wife, orderliness between elders and youngsters, and trust in friends. The former can in fact be included in the latter, the way of the father and the ruler, the father-son and the ruler-subject relationships of the five rights. And these five ethical relationships, and their specific norms, kinship, righteousness, distinction, order, and trust, are the specific content of what makes a person human, and thus divides the judgment between human and beast. Secondly, since the distinction between human and animal is not entirely based on biological criteria, and thus establishes a cultural significance, it is debatable whether those who are biologically human are definitely called human. Some people are good enough to be human, but some people are close to beasts. The judgment of distinction is still whether they have the five morals or not, and its concrete presentation is the difference between a gentleman and a commoner. Mencius further explores the universal basis of what makes people human, benevolence, propriety, and the five rights, and the differences in their specific practices. As a human trait, benevolence and righteousness are innate and universal in every living human being. Further, Mencius further excavates the universal basis of the qualities that make a person human, benevolence, propriety, and the five rights, in fact one and the same, and the differences in their concrete practice. Is there not a heart of benevolence and righteousness in those who exist as human beings? Benevolence and righteousness as a human trait are innately present and universally present in every biological human being. However, due to the differences in the work of cultivation, those who put their conscience are also like axes and gene and wood, which are cut down at the end of the day, and the night air is not enough to survive, then it is not far from the violation of the beast.
This is only one of the ancient Chinese Confucian views on the concept of human being. But from ancient times to modern times, thinkers and philosophers have made new discoveries. What will be the different views on the concept of human being from modern psychology?
Then there's the psychology part. From the psychological point of view, since the birth of human beings, the whole world has been thinking about what human beings are, even though time engraves everything into history. The question has never been completely answered, or perhaps this question is doomed to have no answer from the beginning. Higher animals that can make tools to transform nature and use language. People can be defined from biological, spiritual, and cultural levels, or a combination of these levels. Biologically, human beings are classified as hominids, and are a kind of advanced animals.
On the spiritual level, people are described as being able to use the concept of various souls. In religion, these souls are considered to be related to divine power or existence.
On the study of human beings, the American scientist Maslow has unique and scientific insights. Maslow believed that human beings have some innate needs. The lower the human needs are, the more basic they are and the more similar they are to animals. The higher the needs, the more uniquely human they are. At the same time, these needs are in order. When a person meets the lower needs, can appear higher needs, that is, the hierarchy of needs. 2. In addition, various basic needs generally appear in the order of physiological needs, safety needs, social needs, respect needs and self-actualization needs, but not all of them appear in this order. In terms of culture, human beings have a great sense of belonging and integration and find pleasure in different cultures, which is the key to building social relationships. This is my psychological view of human beings, which shows that human beings are advanced creatures that are spiritually, biologically, and culturally different from animals. In summary, our group discussed the concept of man mainly in terms of theology, man and nature, Chinese Confucianism and psychology, and then we found that as time changed, people's perception of the concept of man became more systematic and scientific. It has been a long process from a predominantly theological belief to a belief in a more scientific understanding. Although different countries and cultures have unique understandings and perspectives on this, we respect each view and civilization.